Hi, Stephen Johnson here. Today, I'm going to show you how to plan your next backpacking trip. The first thing I do when planning a backpacking trip is I understand what type of terrain I'm looking for. Am I looking for high, luscious meadows? Do I want to look for alpine lakes or mountain peaks? Am I looking for a hike through old growth forests or canyons? So I start off by understanding what type of terrain am I going to be looking for. And it's helpful if you understand what type of terrain you would like to look for as well. If you don't know what type of terrain you enjoy, experience everything you can. Get out and try doing a hike where you go to high mountain ridges and exposed ridges and alpine lakes, and then do another one when you're in canyons, and really kind of discover the type of terrain that you like. The next thing that's important is to understand how far you want to be going each day and what type of elevation you're comfortable with. If you try to do too much in a day, you end up spending a lot of your day just looking forward to camp and not really enjoying where you're at. Believe me, I've done it. I've tried to see too much, go too far, and end up not enjoying it as much as I could have. But if you don't push yourself enough, you also won't see everything that you could. So it's helpful to understand how far you can go each day and what type of elevation you can handle. I recommend for starting out something in the 4 to 5 miles per day, maybe 6, and a couple thousand feet of elevation gain at most. As you get comfortable with that, you can move up. The next thing is to have a general idea for where you want to go. To do this, it's really helpful to look at guidebooks, finding really good guidebooks for whatever area you're going to be going to. You can look online at websites like the Outbound Collective, or for myself, I'm in Washington, so the Washington Trails Association. These all give you good ideas for areas that you could go visit. Now, when you're looking for an area to go visit, you don't need to find the exact route you're going to go to. It's helpful just to know, I want to go look at this lake, or I love the way that ridge looks, or I just found this amazing photo of a beautiful alpine meadow that I really want to go see. So you're finding ideas and information about the area you want to go to, not necessarily the exact day by day itinerary. I often find that guidebooks will get me close, but they maybe have a 7-day trip when I've only got 4 days, or maybe they have a really great 3-day loop or 4-day loop, but I've got 7 days this time. And so I'm going to take that and slightly tweak it or modify it, or maybe their average per day is at 10 miles, but I want to get an average per day down to 6. So the guidebooks and all the online websites give you a great idea for where you might want to go, but you don't necessarily have to use that for the exact day-by-day itinerary. When you're trying to get an idea for where to go, it's also really helpful to know the general areas for the location of where you live. So for example, I live in Washington State, and I know that when I'm looking kind of what the North Cascade National Park might look like, or what Mount Rainier National Park, I also know that I can go to places like the Glacier Peak Wilderness, or the Alpine Lakes Wilderness, or the Henry M. Jackson Wilderness, or the Goat Rocks Wilderness. So I know all these different areas that I might want to go visit. The next thing I do is I open up Topo Maps Plus. And then you can do this with the free version, and I start exploring those different areas. I look at the trails in those areas. I look at where the ridge lines are. I look at where the lakes are, where the meadows are. So for example, this summer, I'm planning a 7-day backpacking trip. Right now I'm looking at the Glacier Peak Wilderness, and I'm exploring different areas to see what's in the Glacier Peak Wilderness. Here I'm looking at an alpine lake called Lake Sally Ann. It's along the Crest Trail. I also see that off to the side there's this beautiful looking lake called Blue Lake. And then if I move farther down along the Crest Trail, I find a couple mountain passes. I find White Pass and Red Pass. And as I keep going, I can see here's Mica Lake at Fire Creek Pass. And if I keep going along, I can find another lake. Here's Image Lake. And there's more passes. I could go over to the Lyman Lake Basin, and there's Buck Creek Pass. So there's all these different options up here. And I'm looking at the map just to kind of get a sense for what's in this area. In the Glacier Peak Wilderness, I could also move over and look up the Iniat River Valley and see ice lakes. There's just a lot to explore over there. So I'm just trying to get a good general sense for what's in this area. Where are places that I might want to go? So now that I've got some ideas for what's in the area, I'm just going to start trying to say, okay, what's some general routes I could take a look at? So here, I'm looking at Katy Ridge. I'm going to select the trail for Katy Ridge, and I can actually see how far it is from the trailhead to the end of Katy Ridge Trail. I can see the elevation gain as well. And now I can get an idea for if I were to hike up Katy Ridge, and then now if I want to go over to, let's say, Lake Salian, I can now select the crest trail, and I can move the crosshairs on the elevation profile to select just the portion of the trail up to Lake Salian from Katy Ridge Trail. This gives me an idea for if my first day, if I was to hike from the trailhead up to Lake Salian, what that would look like. I can do the same thing for each additional day to piece together what the elevation is going to look like and what the total distance is going to look like. Alternately, if you have Topo Maps Plus Pro, when you select a trail, you can move the crosshairs at the end of that trail. This will show you quickly what the total distance and elevation looks like when you start joining these trails together. Topo Maps Plus Pro allows you to join trails together that are part of a large trail network. The app will analyze all the trails on the map, find all their junctions, and allow you to join all those together to create custom routes. Usually when I'm doing this, I will then select each of the different areas that I'm going to go to, and I will change their color. I'll give them a custom color for this particular trip, so maybe I'll do orange, so that way that really stands out on the map, and as I zoom in and zoom out, I can really see the route that I'm planning. So now if I'm camping at Lake Salian, I can go ahead and select the crest trail, and now I can look at, all right, I want to be hiking about 10 miles a day roughly. Where can I get to 10 miles from here? And I can move forward along the crest trail here, and I can look and see, oh, up at White Pass and Red Pass, that's going to get me up in that 10-mile range. Where might I want to camp up here? I can find and look around for campsites and see that, all right, in this case, I actually would like to camp on the other side of Red Pass. And I can keep doing this for each of the days on my trip. And this can let me plan a full trip for where I want to go for each day, and how long it's going to be and what the total elevation is going to be for each day on that trip. And then I can do this in other areas. So for example, I could zoom back out and I could go over to the Goat Rocks Wilderness. Goat Rocks Wilderness has all kinds of trail options there as well. And I can zoom around and I can do the exact same thing. So I can find the Lily Basin Trail, for example. Select the Lily Basin Trail and find out distances and elevations along it. Look for possible places to camp and plan out each day for a possible trip in the Goat Rocks Wilderness. Now, once I've got an idea for some possible places to go, if you have Topo Maps Plus Pro, you can also take a look at public Flickr photos. You can turn on the Flickr photo overlay, and this will show you photos right along that particular route. If you don't have Topo Maps Plus Pro, you can go over to Google or something like that and Google for these locations and try to find images for places along your route. I like to do this just to give me a better sense for what am I going to see, what's going to be out there. So that's the first part for planning a trip. In part 2, I'm going to talk more about how you share that information with your friends, how you organize that information, how you pull all that data together to be able to get your final trip plan and be able to go out and just have a wonderful, awesome time.